Welcome to Ethical Point. This is the explainer, where we take deep, philosophical ethics and translate them into high-scoring, completely actionable answers for the UPSC Civil Service's main examination. I'll be your mentor today, guiding you through General Studies Paper 4. And look, I know that as a student, translating high-minded philosophy into a concrete administrative answer can sometimes feel, well, impossible. Like you're just lost in the academic clouds. But don't worry. Today we're going to deconstruct a massive, classic concept, the sweeping impact of women's empowerment, and show you exactly how an aspiring civil servant should frame it. So here is our 2023 GS Paper 4 question. It's a direct quote from Jawaharlal Nehru. "To awaken the people, it is the women who must be awakened. Once she is on the move, the family moves, the village moves, the nation moves." Now, if you're feeling a bit of skepticism right now, I completely get it. This is a 10-mark question. You have exactly 150 words. How on earth do you squeeze the awakening of an entire nation into a few paragraphs? Most candidates panic here. They write flowery essays instead of structured administrative answers. But here's the secret. Nehru actually gave you the exact framework for your answer right inside the quote itself. To get there, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start by decoding the mains question, look at the economic and governance impacts, dive into grassroots climate resilience, tackle breaking intergenerational cycles, and finally, lay out that UPSC mains answer strategy. No fluff, just structure.
Section 1. Decoding the mains question. First things first, we have to remember that Jawaharlal Nehru wasn't just a philosopher, right? He was the principal architect of modern India.
He's speaking directly from the perspective of nation building. For Nehru, empowering women was a pragmatic necessity. And this perfectly illustrates what we call the ripple effect. Think of it as a literal chain of cause and effect. Step 1, you empower a woman. When you do that, it naturally leads to step 2, uplifting the family. That family's progress bleeds into step 3, transforming the village. And when thousands of villages transform, boom, you hit step 4, moving the nation. It's a massive multiplier effect across society. If you structure your GS4 answer using this exact ripple, the examiner is going to see a highly logical administrative mind at work.
Moving right along to Section 2, Economic and Governance Impacts, we absolutely need to back up our ethics with real-world economic facts.
And the very first fact we need to look at is labor. But hey, time for a quick layman's pause. Before we start throwing around technical acronyms in our exam answers, we need to make sure we know exactly what they mean. FLFP, or Female Labor Force Participation, is simply the percentage of women in the working-age population who are either employed or actively seeking work. Why does this matter so much for your ethics paper? Because economic independence is the absolute bedrock of empowerment. Let's see how this plays out practically. Higher FLFP directly boosts national GDP growth. But here's the critical ethical and sociological point. Women typically reinvest a much higher portion of their earnings directly back into their families compared to men. That's step 2 of Nehru's quote in action. The family moves. That reinvestment substantially improves family health levels and elevates educational outcomes for children. It's an incredible economic multiplier effect. You aren't just paying one worker. You are literally funding the next generation's health and education. We see this exact trend in other developing nations like Bangladesh or Rwanda, where rising female workforce participation directly correlates with rapid national development. But what about the governance side? How exactly does the village move? Just think about the Panchayati Raj institutions. When women take on leadership roles in local governance, public priorities fundamentally shift. Governance becomes way more inclusive. Instead of just focusing on building roads, the focus often shifts to fundamental human needs. We see them prioritizing clean drinking water initiatives, focusing on community hygiene and sanitation, and championing local educational infrastructure. It is literally empathy translated into public policy.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, Grassroots Climate Resilience. Sustainable development is a massive administrative challenge today, and women-led collectives are at the absolute forefront of it.
Time for another layman's pause. The sources mention these projects build social cohesion. Let's define that so you can use it confidently in your essays. Social cohesion is the strength of relationships and the sense of solidarity among members of a community working together. Think of it as the social glue. When a community faces a crisis, like a severe drought, they can either fracture or they can unite. And community water projects? They require intense cooperation and trust. You simply can't fix a village's water supply without social cohesion. And here is the exact kind of real-world evidence UPSC examiners are desperately looking for in a strong mains answer. The Jal Sahalas.
These are women-led collectives operating in the severely water-stressed Bundelkhand region. They're literally out there fighting for climate resilience on the front lines. It's a fantastic case study to include because it's specific, it's current, and it perfectly illustrates the whole concept. Just look at what the Jal Sahalis are actively doing. They are revitalizing dried-up traditional water bodies. They are designing and building rainwater harvesting systems and advancing sustainable farming practices just to secure local water independence. It's truly amazing. These are complex administrative realities being tackled at the grassroots level. This right here is Nehru's idea of the village moving, brought to life in the 21st century.
Now let's look at the long game in Section 4, Breaking Intergenerational Cycles. How does empowering a mother literally rewrite the future?
Let's hit the pause button one more time for a layman's pause. Intergenerational cycles. I know it's a heavy sociological term, but it's absolutely crucial. An intergenerational cycle is the transmission of poverty, beliefs, health outcomes, or social status directly from parents to their children. If poverty is a disease, the intergenerational cycle is exactly how it is inherited. As a civil servant, your job isn't just to treat the symptom today, but to cure the inheritance for tomorrow.
The contrast here is vital. A lack of maternal education often leads to uninformed health decisions, much higher risks of early marriage for daughters, and extreme vulnerability to child labor. It's a vicious cycle. But conversely, educated women are significantly more likely to make informed health decisions. They actively protect their daughters from early marriage and completely halt the cycles of child labor. So the big takeaway? Educating and empowering women is arguably the single most effective administrative tool a government has for stopping generational poverty right in its tracks.
Okay, I know your mind is probably buzzing by now. We have the theory and we have the data. Let's pivot to Section 5, the UPSC mains answer strategy. How do we actually structure all of this into 150 words?
Before we map it out, we need our closing vocabulary. When we talk about empowering women reshaping the social structure, our ultimate target goal is inclusive growth. Final layman's pause, inclusive growth simply means economic development that is distributed fairly across society, creating opportunities for all segments of the population. A civil servant doesn't just want a rich country, they want a fair country. That is the exact note you must end your answer on. Let's break the fourth wall here for a second. Grab a pen because this is your blueprint for maximizing your marks. For your introduction, don't just repeat the quote. Define Nehru as the architect of modern India, and clearly state that women's empowerment is a pragmatic necessity, not just a moral one. Then in your body paragraphs, use that ripple effect. Connect the family, the village, and the nation. Cite female labor force participation for the economic gains, and mention the Jal Sahalis in Bundelkhand for climate resilience and governance. Finally, for the conclusion, or the way forward, you need a strong call to action. Call to dismantle systemic barriers and ensure equal access to resources, education, and leadership. Tie it all up by stating this is exactly how we achieve inclusive growth and social cohesion.
Which leaves us with one final thought as we close out this explainer. Look, this isn't just about passing an exam. These are the very real ethical frameworks you will be using when you are actually sitting in that district magistrate's chair. It's about internalizing these ethics for your entire future career. So, aspiring civil servants, are you ready to write the change you wish to administrate? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into GS Paper 4. Keep structuring your thoughts, keep applying those real-world examples, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.